Hello, everybody, and welcome to Citing Articles and Similar Resources. During today's workshop, we will look at various techniques for finding citing articles as well as similar resources to expand your research in a particular topic area. My name is Amanda Bizet. I am a reference and instruction librarian here at NCU, and you are always welcome to follow up with me directly if you do have any questions related to the content of this workshop. You can reach me at abzet, so A for Amanda, BEZET at ncu.edu. Using a single article to locate more resources relevant to your topic is a very effective research technique, and there are simple ways to do this, though these methods can be easily overlooked. So that's where this workshop becomes very important. So to start, we're going to go to the Research Help drop-down menu and go to the research process, because I like to point out the section of the research process that does correspond to the topic presented in this workshop. So if we scroll down, we have an entire section here called Finding Similar Resources. And we're certainly going to be going through these techniques, but please note you can always return to this section and navigate on the left-hand side to return to any of those particular techniques that we utilize today. So if you can't remember how to find a citing article, simply return to this guide and you'll be able to read all about that. All right, so let's go ahead and return to the library's homepage, and we can get started with our techniques. And we'll start out here with our Roadrunner search, and let me make this slightly bigger for you all. Okay, so here we are in the center of the homepage with our Roadrunner search. Of course, as many of you know, this does search across most of our library's database content, so it's the best starting point for your academic research. And so let's say in this case, we are clicking on our advanced search, and let's say our topic of the day here is library instruction for doctoral students. And so that's an area of interest to me, of course. So we're going to look for some articles in that area. Okay, so I'm going to look for library instruction. Remember, the techniques right now are not what our techniques as far as searching are not so important, because we're going to focus on all of those great techniques for finding similar resources once we identify a single resource. But if you're not familiar with those phrase searches, certainly check out our Searching 101 workshop, which goes over all the ins and outs of how to effectively search in the library. Searching 101 is available right here under the Learn the Library link, and then we can click here to Library Workshop Videos. And that's where you'll see Searching 101. Searching 102 does incorporate some of the techniques that we're using here today. So if you're viewing this workshop, I believe Searching 102 is probably not absolutely necessary for you, but it might be a good refresher. Okay, so we are here back at our search screen for library instruction and doctoral students. I'm going to put on that scholarly and peer-reviewed journal limiter and just go ahead and press search. Okay, so we do have a number of resources that have come up here. And I'm actually going to scroll down because I had a particular article in mind right here. ABD or EDT, a model of library training for distance doctoral students. So let's say in our situation, we have previously found this article. We find this article very important to our doctoral or dissertation research, and we want to use this as a launching point to find related research. Again, this is a great technique to expand the research available to you. So we're going to go into the detailed records screen. So notice I did not click on the PDF full text. I clicked on the link, the title, in order to go into that detailed records screen. Here on the detailed records screen, we have a lot of important information, and in this case, what we're really interested in are the subject terms and the author supplied keywords. Now, not all articles will have both. Some will just have keywords, some will just have subject terms, but in many cases, probably most cases, they're actually hyperlinked. Now, what does that mean for us? That means that we can use subject terms associated with an article we have already found in order to springboard into a new search related to that original article. So here we see that we have doctoral students, libraries and distance education, libraries and students, library orientation, doctoral students, information literacy, library instruction. And when you see one that really stands out to you, what you're really interested in, go ahead and click on it. So here we have academic library services for graduate students. That sounds super interesting to me, so I'm going to go ahead and click on that link. When I click on that link, it will execute a brand new search for that subject term or author supplied keyword. So you'll notice at the top, I do have that subject that I was interested in, and preceding that is the letters DE. So that's nothing you need to worry about. It's nothing you'll ever type in. It's just what will appear if you click on one of those hyperlinked subject terms or keywords, okay? It just indicates that you're searching a particular subject index for that subject term. Okay, so now I have 117 results. Now, the catch here is that any limiters that you applied previously are not retained, okay? We did a new search just for articles that have been assigned this subject term, academic library services, for graduate students. So if I wanted to make sure these were scholarly, I would need to pop that on the left-hand side. If you needed a date limiter as well, you can certainly pop that on. Now, remember, when it comes to doctoral research, and especially as you're trying to find related articles, you really don't want to include a date limiter because older articles, and certainly in the case of the original article we selected, it's a bit older, okay? So these older articles can lead you to much more recent research, valuable research, so we don't want to discount the older ones, okay? But when we did put on that scholarly and peer-reviewed journal limiter, we did drop that down quite a bit to just 32 articles. But we would be able to go through that and see if any of those articles really meet what we're looking for in terms of our topic. So bottom line, use those subjects that are associated with a particular article you have found. Use those to your advantage. And remember, this one was a little older, so we're not going to discount these older articles. We can use those to find related research. Okay, so that was our first subject term. And by the way, when you do click on these, I'm sorry, that was our first technique to find related research. By the way, when you do click on these hyperlink subject terms or keywords, typically those searches that you execute are more narrow than those that you do when you are keyword searching. Not all the time, but a lot of times they are more narrow. So you might expect to receive a smaller set of results. Okay. So that was our first technique, using these author-supplied keywords and subject terms associated with articles we've already found to find related research. And I recommend doing this for any article that you have found to be valuable. In fact, you can just type in that article's title up here at the top of the Roadrunner search to locate the record for that in the library in order to continue with this technique. The next technique we want to talk about are the cited references. And that means the references that this author used, in this case, Tuñón and Ramirez, what these authors used in their own research. And this, I'm going to jump into the full text. This is probably a technique that you have used on your own, just because it's pretty self-explanatory, right? So we're interested in this article on the library training for doctoral students. So any references that they have used here can certainly be beneficial to us as well. Now, the drawback of using the references here, right, is that they're all older or as most recent as 2010, right? So in a few moments, we'll see how to spring forward in time to find related research, but right now we're looking backwards, right? We're looking at the references that they have used. But the good news about that is you can find very relevant related articles. And so let's say that we find an article listed in this references list that we are interested in. So what I can do is, that one's pretty old, but that's okay. I'll just choose one here. Let's see. How about this one? Let's go. It is kind of older too. It's 2003. So maybe this isn't the best technique for the most recent research, but I still want to demonstrate how you would find this article if you were interested in an article you found. Okay, so what I'll do is just highlight this. I'm going to copy it. I'll go back to the library's homepage and paste in that article title. Then I can change my keyword drop-down menu to title and press submit. So this is going to try to locate that particular article within the NCU library, and just within a matter of seconds, hopefully, we can see those results and determine if that article is available to us. That one looks like it might not have been. So let's try another one, just so we can see. Okay, let's look at this one. Let's see, what journal was that? Let's try a different journal, because perhaps that's a journal that we do not subscribe to. Okay, let's try. And seeing a few dissertations in this list as well. Okay, let's try this one. All right, so I'm going to copy that and we'll do that technique again. So if you run into the situation where you're unable to find a particular article within the NCU library, you can always request that through our interlibrary loan system as well. So I'm just going to pop in that article title and press and select TI title there. And we'll give that a try. Okay, so that one came up, the record came up. Now when we have this green 360 link, we don't know if we necessarily have that. We have the record, but now we have to click the green 360 link to search the rest of the library for that content. So this content is coming up. This is available in full text from our ProQuest database. But sometimes when you click on that green link, you may end up at a screen that says it's unavailable. Remember, interlibrary loan really increases the amount of research available to you, so don't hesitate to use that. If you have any questions about interlibrary loan, please don't hesitate to contact the library. Okay, so we're back at our article. Already we have used the author supplied keywords and subject terms to find related research, and we've taken a look at the references page within this article. And we know that the drawback is the content could potentially be older. What we want to do next is see who has cited this article since 2010. Okay, so 12 years have gone by, a lot of time has passed. Has the potential for other researchers to have read this article and incorporated it into their newer but related research. So there are a few actually library databases that do provide the citing articles, meaning the articles that came after and referred back to a particular article. And so let me pop back to our library's research process guide to show you within the Finding Similar Resources guide, we do have that page on citing articles. I just want to point out that there, again, are a number of databases that provide citing articles. This box, this guide, gives a screenshot of where you can find that information in the database, okay? So in Web of Knowledge, we have that, Taylor and Francis. So you can see, the guide here, citations. But as a general rule, Google Scholar is probably the best, at least in my opinion, the best resource for finding the citing articles. And the reason for that is these databases can tell you which articles have cited a certain source, but only if those resources are indexed in that particular database. Since Google Scholar has a huge index and has millions and millions of citations and full text articles, it's generally the best place to look for the citing articles. So what we want to do, and I'm going to pop back to our detailed record screen in order to copy that article title, okay? So we know what references these authors used. We want to see what new authors refer back to this article, and we're doing that by popping that title here into Google Scholar and pressing search. Okay, here we have our record for that 2010 article. We see that we can get the full text within the NCU library. And here is our link for the citing articles. So I'm going to click on Cited by 28. Since 2010, 28 other researchers have cited this article. 28 is a smaller number, and in other cases you might see hundreds or even thousands of citing articles, especially if something is considered a seminal work, something very pivotal that contributed great information to that discipline or field. In this case, it was just 28, but that's not a judgment on the article one way or another. We just know that 28 other researchers have used that article in their own research to expand upon that knowledge. And so here we can, of course, scroll down and take a look at those 28 articles. We also have the ability to limit this by date. Now, I don't necessarily recommend that unless it's absolutely crucial, like you're getting thousands of citing articles here, because remember, even those older articles, like this one's from 2014, that has 53 citing articles. This one from 2011 has 48 citing articles. So you can sort of just use this page to not only discover articles related to your original, but then to continue to another level from there to look at the citing articles for these articles. So it's a great way to link to related research. Now, in addition to that date limiter, you do have the ability to search within these 28 citing articles. So if you place a checkbox here, it's going to change the search box at the top of the screen there. So if, for example, among these citing articles, if I wanted to see, well, how many of them mentioned doctoral students? Actually, they all did. And maybe I wanted to see in that case, well, I know they're all about doctoral students. How many of them mention workshops? 21 of them mention workshops. And so you could try different searches there to narrow it down to a set of citing articles that maybe focus a little more on what you are interested in. And we're going to talk more about this later in terms of setting up database alerts. But while we are here, setting up database alerts is another great way to expand your research and find related content. But while we are here on the citing articles page, remember we've searched within for workshops, we have 21 results. We can actually, so what this is showing, right? This is showing any article that has the word workshop that has cited this ABD or EDD article since 2010. So that can be up until today, right? To 2022. But what if somebody has cited this tomorrow, right? We don't want to have to keep doing the search every day, right? We can actually set up an alert to get notified anytime a new article cites this article. So to do that, we're going to click Create Alert. And so here we can see that our article is at the top. It says new citations. We did add an alert query that says workshops. If we no longer want that part, if we're just saying, oh, I'll take any article that cites this article, doesn't have to say workshops, we can take that out and just pop in our email address and hit create alert. You will, I think, have to click on a confirmation link from your email in order to, set up this alert. But go ahead and do that for any article that is of interest to you. So any article that you are interested to see who else has cited them, it's a good idea to set this up. You will not get bombarded with emails because really the number of times an article gets cited is few and far between. So it happens rarely, but you really want to stay on top of things and know if an article has been cited. Okay. So again, there are other databases that do provide the citing articles. And we're not going to go into those with the exception of Web of Knowledge. Web of Knowledge is a really interesting database that provides an index and access to social science literature. It's not necessarily a database that you would want to use just for searching generally. It's more so if you have a particular article in mind and you want to determine who has cited it. So let's actually go into Web of Knowledge. Even though we have determined that Google Scholar is the best resource in terms of a flat number of citing resources, it's going to have the greatest index. There are real benefits for using Web of Knowledge outside of the sheer number of citations, of citing articles. And you'll notice when you pop into Web of Knowledge, it's called Web of Science. So we sort of use those terms interchangeably, Web of Science, Web of Knowledge. And here's our basic search box. It does default to all fields. So what I want to do here is change this to title and enter a particular title of interest to me so I can find out more about that. Not only who has cited it, but different ways to sort of visualize that information. Okay, and the article that I'm interested in is improving students' ability to identify and use source information. So I clearly recently typed that in, so I'm going to leave that as is and press search. And so I have one result. Here is that article of interest to me. That one is also older, right? It's 2002. So we know that older articles can be of great value to us. Maybe we don't use this one in our research. Maybe it is too old for our literature review, but we're using it to spring forward in time and look at related resources. We have the number of citations here, 282. Now remember, we'll probably find more than that in Google Scholar. And just to illustrate that, let's go back into Google Scholar, pop that article title in and take a look. 649 citing articles. Okay, and we'll be able to view that list here. So you might be thinking, well, then why even come into Web of Knowledge, Web of Science? There are quite a number of reasons for doing that. So if I click on my article title, I can again see that there's 282 citations. There are 51 references. Let's see, and if I scroll down here, I'll see additional information of interest to me. So here are their references, which we already talked about looking at references. But when we're looking at their 51 references, not only do we get to see what those articles are, we actually get to see who has cited them, which is very cool. That's like taking it a step beyond, right? Because if we looked at the PDF full text for this article, we would just see the references list. We would not be able to determine who else has cited these particular articles. So that's a really great way to go through, look at their references, and then see who else has cited them. Now, in addition to that, we can click on those 282 citations. You will notice in the upper left, my 282 has dropped down to 204. And the reason for that is we don't subscribe to all of the content within Web of Science. We subscribe to particular social science indexes. And so therefore that number of results went down slightly as well. So we're down to 204. We know it's a much smaller number than we see for the citing articles in Google Scholar, but the real benefit here is that you're able to create citation reports and analyze your results. So I'm going to click on Analyze Results first, because this is a really great way to sort of visualize the information in different ways in terms of those citing articles. So right now we've entered into Web of Science categories. That means it's grouping those 204 citing articles into major categories, essentially subject terms. So I see psychology, educational, educational, psychology experimental, and let me make this smaller so this appears a little bit better for you. And the larger the box, the more articles assigned to that category. You can arrange this in different ways. You can choose authors here to see who has written about this most extensively. And so in this case, I see Bratton has written 34 articles, Stromso has written 30. So maybe if I haven't represented those authors in my own research, I really need to take a second look, right? Because they're sort of dominating the field here. So when you hover over that, you can click on View Records and then see all of this particular author's writings. Now there are some additional categories here, many of which you probably won't use. Research areas is another one I feel like you will use. It's very similar to those Web of Science categories, essentially like subject terms. So 154 related to psychology, 10 actually related to computer science, and so on. So I think in terms of this drop down in analyzing results, you'll probably use Web of Science categories, authors, and the research areas most often, but you can see that there are other things there. Also, as you scroll down, you can select particular areas that you want to include records for, and then download that data to a table if you like. So this is an interesting way to sort of visualize those citations. The other thing we can do here is a citation report. So when I click on Citation Report, it's going to show me the 204 citing articles for our original article, which you'll see displayed here. And by the way, if you ever get lost as to where you are in Web of Science, since it is a very sort of large database, a lot of interesting things going on, there's sort of a breadcrumbs here at the top of the screen. So if I wanted to go back just to my citing articles, get out of the citation report, I could, or I could go back to my original search. Okay, but here's my original article, 204 citing articles for this article, but of those 204, then there's 2,810 total citing articles for these articles. So that's taking it a step beyond as well. And as I scroll down, I can also visualize over time how those citations are represented. So we seem to have like a peak of this research in 2019, and then it has since declined. Also, 2016 was a big year for this type of research. I can also scroll down and see how those articles were cited by year. So here's my 204 citing articles for my original article. And then this one had 38 citations in 2018, 27 in 2019, 19 in 2020, and so on. So it'll display the total, but then a breakdown by year, which is really cool. And because Web of Science is such a unique database and has a bit of a learning curve, we do offer monthly workshops, typically monthly workshops on Web of Science, and that workshop is called Am I Done Yet? A deep dive into finding more research with Web of Science. That might not be it precisely. It's very, the name is very similar. So look to our library events page if you are interested in attending a live session of that Web of Knowledge workshop. But for now, hopefully this gave you some really good techniques for looking at the citing articles in both Google Scholar and Web of Science in order to expand the research available to you. So far we've done a lot, right? We've looked at investigating article keywords and subject terms in order to execute new searches related to an original article. We've looked at the cited references, meaning the references within a paper, and we've looked at the citing articles in both Google Scholar and Web of Knowledge, all really great ways to expand your research. The next thing that we're going to take a look at is looking at related results. Now, many article databases provide sort of an automatic way to look at related research. And I'm going to go to the library's homepage. Let's see. Actually popping back into our Finding Similar Resources guide so we can look at our guide on related results. So our related results page is going to tell you which databases provide that automated feature where you are able to find related results within the database. And this does include our Roadrunner search. So I'm going to show you it in there as well as within Google Scholar. But you can see the techniques applied here as well for these other databases. So I'm going to go to our Roadrunner search, and I'm going back to our original article that we had, ABD or EDD, a model of library training for distance doctoral students. And we do have a link here on the left-hand side called Find Similar Results using smart text searching. What this does, it's going to take all of the keywords within this article and search for those. So it's sort of problematic in that it's going to actually find millions of results. So I wouldn't spend a lot of time on this technique. You see we have over 19 million. We have not retained any limits, so I can put on that scholarly and peer-reviewed journal limiter. Maybe in this case, since I do have so many, maybe I do want to pop on a date limiter for instance. So if we go to the last 5 years, we can click on the last 5 years. Guarantee we'll still have millions, right? So use this technique for what it is. We have over 1.8 million. You're never going to pare this down. So what I recommend when you use this smart text searching by finding similar results, that link, just sort of scan through the first few pages, see if anything is of interest to you. Maybe something comes up that you've never seen before. Great, by all means, take a look at it. But I wouldn't spend a ton of time here. Some other library databases may be more effective at finding related results. because they may have different algorithms for how they do find those related results. One of the good databases for finding related results is Web of Science. So if I go back to, let's see, my article screen here, I'm going to jump into that article that we initially found, Improving Students' Ability to Identify and Use Source Information. And in this particular database, you'll see a section that says you may also like. So it really just depends on how these databases, what terminology they use, right? You might see similar results. You might see you may also like. You might see related results. There may be different ways of saying this. So just look for a feature like this in the database that you're working in to see if they offer that. And so in this case, I see you may also like, and if I scroll down, I can click see all to see all the ones that they are suggesting for us. Now in Web of Science, I believe that they suggest articles based on shared citations versus based on shared keywords, which may make for a better experience in finding those related articles. So these might be more so relevant than you would find in other databases. So you can scroll down, take a look at those articles, take a look at their citing articles, and go from there. So we've seen how to look at related results in our Roadrunner search and in Web of Science. I also want to show you how to find those in Google Scholar. Within Google Scholar, next to our citing articles, so next to our cited by, in this case, 649, I have the related articles link. Now, when we were looking at the citing articles, that means that any of those articles were 2002 or more recent. When we look at related articles, unfortunately, that means they can also go backwards in time, as we see from these first couple of results, 1999, 1996. So related articles in Google Scholar, related results in Google Scholar may actually be older. The other drawback here is that we always get about 101 results with nothing left for us to do to narrow it. So there is no search within, and there is no date limiter as we saw for the citing articles. So all we can do here is rely on the relevancy ranking provided by Google Scholar. So I can scroll down and take a look. As I continue through my pages, maybe I notice the relevancy of these articles kind of drops off and it's not really helping me much. So at that point, I recommend just abandoning that technique and moving on to something else. But you may see something here that catches your eye. So therefore, I always recommend when searching for an article record here in Google Scholar that you always take the time to not only look at the citing articles, but just pop on into the related articles, not necessarily spending as much time here, but it could reveal some related articles that you had never seen before. And again, we showed some examples with Web of Knowledge, Roadrunner Search, and as well as Google Scholar, but definitely take some time to see if these other databases might be beneficial in terms of recommending related articles for you. You may find that you really like one of these individual databases like Science Direct or Taylor and Francis, that a lot of your research comes from those resources, and those resources might provide you great related research. Our next technique for finding related research, we kind of jumped ahead and took a look at in terms of setting up a citing articles alert in Google Scholar. Remember, we went to look at those citing articles and then we created an alert. But you're also able to create other types of alerts, specifically search alerts in various databases, which is an excellent way to find similar resources. So let me just hop back to our guide here and to show you that we have our database alerts and RSS feeds page. I don't believe using RSS readers is quite as popular these days, but we also touch on that here. Each of these databases provides a way to set up alerts. Now, there may be different types of an alert. Traditionally, search alerts is what is probably most common, but other databases might only provide something like a table of contents alert to let you know when a new publication has been published, a new issue of a publication. So you can look over this page to read about the individual alerts that are available in various databases. But we'll start with our Roadrunner search since we're in there already. And let's clear this out so we actually let me go back to our search history because I know we already did a search on the topic of interest to us. Must have been on this page. We'll give that a moment. And if it takes too long, I'll just start a new search all over again. Okay, here's our search history. And so the search I'm interested in is library instruction and doctoral students. I'll go back to view my results so we can take a look at that. And by the way, as I'm using this search history, remember this is available only for your current browsing session. If I accidentally closed out of this window and tried to come back, that search history would be gone. So here's my 514 results. If I like this search, it's coming up with some great articles for me. It's really helping me. I will want to get notified if any new articles meet this search criteria. And I can do that by going to the share button right above my first result. When I click on share, I'm able to click on this link that says email alert. So when I come to this email alert, I can change my subject. It's just going to default to EBSCO alert, but I'm going to say library instruction articles. And then I'll put in my email address. Okay, and then I can choose the frequency of this email. Do I want to be notified once a day, once a week, bi-weekly? I'll go with once a week. I do recommend changing the articles published within the last, I think it defaults to 1 year. I like to choose no limit simply because, as we've seen today, older articles can certainly be valuable. Even if you don't necessarily use that specific article in your research, those articles may lead you to something else that is just perfect. So I recommend leaving it, setting it to no limit. And then you can choose the detailed result format here. If you are an RSS user, you can copy that feed link here, but I'm going to save this email alert by clicking Save Alert. Okay, so you don't get any sort of confirmation there that you have set that email alert up. It will just return to your screen there, but you can modify your alerts under your folder here within the Roadrunner search. Okay, so we've set up an alert in the Roadrunner search to get notified of new articles about library instruction and doctoral students. I'm going to say that I want to do a search here in Google Scholar as well, so I'm able to get an alert here as well. Remember, Google Scholar is not just good for the citing articles, although that's the primary way that I use this database. It's also just great for finding literature that isn't necessarily included in the NCU library. The NCU library contains primarily subscription-based content, not necessarily open access content, which you can find online that can still be very valuable. So I'm going to go to my homepage. Let's start from square one. Then I'm going to click on the menu bar here to get to my advanced search. So we're going to do a search here. And let's just say I am interested in, let's see here. I'll do the exact phrase library instruction and at least one of the words doctoral, PhD, graduate, dissertation, doctorate. So I'm looking for the exact phrase here. I don't need quotes because it's actually going to pop that in for me if it's in the exact phrase search. If I also wanted to include something like library workshops, any phrase that you don't include on the exact phrase field, it does need quotes. But in this case, I'm just going to leave it as library instruction and then my doctoral component here for at least one of the words and press search. And so here I have over 21,000 results. Of course, with Google Scholar, we always have an overwhelming number with not too much we can do to narrow that down. But if I'm happy with this, and by the way, I typically just tell students don't even pay attention to this because you won't get through that number of results. You're just going to rely on the relevancy ranking and go through, several pages worth of results and not drive yourself crazy, right? So if I like what I'm seeing though, I can set an alert here to get notified of new articles that meet my search criteria. And so it's just as simple as creating that citation alert. I just click on create alert there and then pop in my email address and then hit create alert. And then you will get notified. Again, I think you have to make click on a confirmation email, but then you will get notified anytime new articles match your search criteria. And within that email, you're able to cancel alerts as well. Okay, so because there's such a number of databases that provide a way to set up alerts, I would say, again, you want to keep things simple. You're probably not going to set up alerts in every one of these, right? But set it up in Roadrunner Search, set it up in Google Scholar, and then if there's a particular database that is very beneficial to you, like Springer Link, Web of Knowledge, whatever it may be, set up an alert there as well. Okay. Great way to stay up to date on research. And so we have now looked at how to use article keywords and subject terms, looked at the references used in an article, looked at the citing articles, looked at ways to find related results sort of automatically through the database, and finally how to set up database alerts in order to get notified of new articles meeting your search criteria. We have one more technique to use in terms of finding related research. So everything that we've done so far has taken place in various databases where various different publications are coming into play. Different journals, newspapers, magazines, etc. Primarily journals because we're doing doctoral level research, right? Now, what if you have identified a very particular publication, journal, scholarly journal, that is very beneficial to you? A very valid search technique and way to expand your research is to search within a particular publication that you have identified. Now, sometimes what I will do is, going back to my Roadrunner search here, maybe we don't know what publications are really appropriate for us. Here's my basic search for library instruction and doctoral students. Here's something you can do. You can scroll down on your results screen looking at the left-hand menu. We have a filter here for journal title. This journal title filter, although we don't want to filter by journal right now, we just want to see what journals are readily used, right? And I can click Show More to see all of the journals associated with my results. But looking at this list, Reference and User Services Quarterly, they publish a lot on this doctoral students and instruction. College and Research Libraries has a lot of articles. Journal of Library Administration, Libraries in the Academy, Reference Services Review. Okay, so if you identify a journal that you're interested in, I'm going to go with Reference Services Review. What I can do is copy it, go back to the library's homepage and click on Find a Resource. Find a Resource is a tool that can be used to identify if we have a particular publication, and if we do, where we access that, and in what years we have coverage. And by the way, Find a Resource is also located under this Research Resources drop-down menu. So I'll access it there, but the other search box was the same as well. So I'm going to paste in my journal title, Reference Services Review. And I have 5 results, but here's the one I'm looking for. This is a peer-reviewed journal just called Reference Services Review. If you ever have trouble identifying, you can narrow it just to journals only, and in that case, I got just 1. So I get this publication from 1999 to 1 year ago in ProQuest Central. And so it looks like this publication has an embargo, unfortunately, so the last year of articles I would need to request through interlibrary loan. But let's pop into ProQuest. Now, depending on the publication, it could be a different publisher or database that aggregates that publication, but there should always be a way to search within the publication or browse by issue. So we can see, I think this is our most recent issue that we're able to browse immediately, but we could change that drop down. Now, what I want to demonstrate is if we have determined Reference Services Review is an important journal for our research, we might just want to search within it for something. And in this case, I'm just going to look for doctoral. When we're searching within a particular publication, remember, this isn't like Roadrunner Search where we're searching across millions of records and thousands of journals, right? Here, we're just searching one individual journal, so we want to be a lot broader in our search. We're not going to get super specific, and I didn't even need the library instruction because we already know that this has to do with libraries, right? So I have 167 results. I could narrow that maybe by the most recent first if I wanted to do that. And then I can access all of those articles. Now, in theory, these articles would be coming up in a Roadrunner search, but that depends, specifically on how you have searched, how many results you have. Did you get to the page where these results were listed? Did they come up at all based on your search terms? So for that reason, you could potentially, discover articles here that you have never seen before because you've been searching in databases based on keyword. This is a totally different way of accessing content, searching within a particular publication. Remember, we search very broadly, but it could have brought back very different results here. So if I wanted to read this article on library instruction and information literacy 2020, this seems like a really interesting article related to my topic. Let's see, does this have full text? This journal might, oh, this one is not in full text because it's the last year. Okay, so I'd have to go to a little bit of an older article to get that full text. But remember, anything not immediately accessible within the NCU library, please don't hesitate to place an interlibrary loan request. If you need any help doing that, we're always available to assist you. So we have seen many, many ways to find similar resources, including finding those citing articles, which may be the most impactful, right? But all of these results are beneficial, great way to increase your area of research, increase the number of articles that you have found. So please don't hesitate to reach out if you need any clarification or help with these. Don't get overwhelmed. These are a lot of techniques, but you can return here to see, a summary of that technique. And if you need help applying that to your own topic, please don't hesitate to reach out. That's why we are here. I hope that this workshop has been helpful, and I hope that you have a great day. Thanks for watching.